Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Shannon Hart, aka Dr. Hart, and we are here for part 2 of my journey to dermatology. And if you haven't watched the first video, part 1, I think you should head over there first. Watch that video in its entirety so you can find out how I got accepted into medical school. Over there, we talk about undergrad, we talk about my 4 years of a gap year and what I did during that gap year. We talk about my 1-year master's program and how that ultimately got me into medical school. So again, I'm Dr. Hart, and this is my YouTube channel, In My Skin. And this is part 2 of how I made it into dermatology, or I should say how I matched into dermatology. So for those of you actually who watched that first video, thank you so much, because I know I was yapping and some of you probably didn't make it through all the 53 minutes, because I know you probably saw it was like 53 minutes. It's okay. I promise I won't talk too long here. We'll make this one kind of short, pretty straightforward. It's more so about answering questions that you guys left for me on my Instagram. So if you don't follow me, you should definitely follow me on Instagram, because I asked my followers what questions did they have for me that they wanted me to address in this video. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it and we'll get into the very first question, or I should say the most popular question that I get asked. And that is, what resources did you use throughout medical school? So this question, of course, is going to change from person to person depending on who you ask, right? I am a person, I like to keep it cute. I like to keep it simple. So one thing that you should know in medical school is that a lot of your exams are going to be lecture-based, right? So the bulk of your questions are going to come from the lectures that they give you in medical school. So what did I do? I studied the slides, front to back, back to front, upside down, any way that I knew how to. And whenever there was something that I didn't necessarily understand, that's when I would go to YouTube or try to open a book that I had to kind of explain things a little bit better. But let's be honest, we live in a digital time right now, so me really cracking open a book, kind of unheard of. So YouTube was honestly my best friend. If there was a topic that I did not really understand, I kind of just put that thing in on YouTube, found a video that wasn't too long, you know, something that I actually could get through, and watched it until I understood. Sometimes you're gonna find a video like, not good. You're gonna look for another one. But YouTube is going to be your best friend when trying to understand different concepts. Another thing that I use, which I think is a great way to memorize things, if it's just hard, cold facts, there's really not much to it. It's just like you need to put this as your answer when you see this keyword. And Anki is going to be your best friend for that. I don't think Anki is that great when it comes to trying to conceptualize things. I just think it's a really good tool for just memorizing just straight facts. So that was amazing for me when it came down to, when I see this word on the exam, I'm picking this answer. And that was great, okay? Another thing that I used that I thought was pretty helpful was this pathology book. And I'm going to, probably won't be able to show you guys a picture, but it's called The Fundamentals of Pathology. If I can find a picture of it, I'll kind of just plaster it somewhere over here so you guys can see it. That book was so great. And I know that's kind of like just for pathology, but pathology is literally in every system that you learn about. Again, my cats are making loud, but we move. So That book, I think, helped me so much in pathology, and I would say it was a great book for when it's time for you to study for your boards. If anything, we'll talk about boards in a bit, but for boards, that book was spectacular. Give me 14 of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was great. It really just broke things down in a very simple way. It kind of gave you different hints and keywords to look out for when you see certain things in a question that can point you in the right direction. A little, tip about my school, we didn't necessarily we had a pathology professor, but no one taught us pathology. So we were kind of just given a bunch of PDF files, each block, download them, read them, learn them, show up for the exam. So pathology was self-taught. So you can imagine that can be pretty tough. Like, have y'all seen this? Pathology is the pictures. Y'all talk about all rashes look the same. Pathology, all of those slides look the same to me. Okay. So those are really great resources. Some things that some of my classmates did, which I don't know if I completely recommend, but however, to each its own, was some people actually use their first aid book and kind of allow that to guide them on the high yield things for first and second year when they're taking their exams. I don't think it's a bad idea. Sometimes I think it can be a bit much, at least for me, because I just need to know what it is that I need to know for this exam, and I just want to focus on that. But if you have that kind of mind where you can kind of think ahead of the game, go for it. You can definitely use the first aid book as a resource to kind of help you get through first and second year. So those were pretty much some things that I use. And if you want to know a good YouTube channel, Ninja Nerd, he's pretty good. I think he is a great resource for everything. However, his videos are pretty long, so it can be a little difficult when you're pushing for time trying to just understand one concept and there's an hour and 20-minute video sitting in front of you. That can be a little annoying. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the resources. Let's jump into the second question. What did you do during medical school to make yourself a good candidate for dermatology? I love this question because the answer is not probably what you expect it to be. I don't want to say I didn't do anything to put myself in a good position. But if I'm being honest, I think I didn't really focus on trying to be involved in everything dermatology. You know what I'm saying? For instance, I learned pretty early on in medical school that I enjoyed the dissection lab. They were annoying in a sense because we were a COVID class. So in the beginning of our year, it was very hard to dissect bodies with a group of people with COVID restrictions. And so our labs were limited to like 45 minutes. And I don't know if you know, but there are a lot of muscles in the body. So trying to get through that second block dissecting, I think a lot of us, including myself, was extremely frustrated with the dissection lab. But I think once the COVID restrictions were lifted, I enjoyed dissecting. I genuinely did. And so when the opportunity came around for me to become an anatomy intern and to help the first years dissect their bodies, and I'm a second year at this point, so to help them and to kind of teach them and make things a little easier for them, I really liked it. And I don't know what it is about dissecting. I know that probably sounds so strange to some, but I genuinely enjoyed it. And that's probably why I had a good time on my surgery rotation when I was a third year. Because I like getting my hands dirty. I really do like using my hands. And it's like, well, why didn't you become a surgeon? Because baby, I can't be in the OR 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't do it. Just being honest. So shout out to you surgeons, because I cannot do it. But I love suturing. I love cutting. I love it. But as far as it being my job, I couldn't. So that's why I didn't pursue surgery. But I really enjoyed dissection. And the reason why I mention that is because I think a lot of times we get so caught up in thinking that our whole CV has to be derm, 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 derm. When in reality, people need to see that there are things that you genuinely care about outside of dermatology. And you'll be surprised how something that you genuinely have a passion for carries its way over into dermatology. For instance, being that I was an anatomy intern, right? When I got to my audition rotations, there was one particular site that I was rotating at, and the program director decided to ask me a bunch of facial anatomy questions. Asking me about muscles, he was asking me about the nerves, he was asking me about the arteries. Which zones do we need to avoid during Botox and why? Because if we are paralyzing this muscle, what could be the effect of that? And you want to know what helped me answer those questions and actually make a really great impression on that program director? It was the fact that I had a really good foundation in anatomy, and the reason why I had that good foundation in anatomy was because I spent a lot of time in the anatomy lab. Why? Because I genuinely enjoyed it. So I had no idea that what I was doing in my second year was going to put me in a great position during my fourth year. But that's why I think you should definitely stick to doing things that you genuinely enjoy. Dermatology is a very research heavy field. A lot of times people are going to tell you, research derm, research derm, research derm. Yes, you should have a good amount of dermatology research. However, if you come across a research topic that you are genuinely interested in, if you genuinely care about that topic, go forward. Don't toss it off to the side because it has nothing to do with dermatology. Because one thing that I think I have noticed in the derm world, people like to know that you're a normal person. People like to know that you are committed to medicine and advancing it. So even if it has absolutely nothing to do with dermatology, if you have a research project that you've been working on for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, they're going to be impressed by the fact that you stuck to something that long and genuinely wanted to get it published, get it out into the world, because that shows that you're committed to advancing medicine, not just dermatology, but medicine. And essentially, you're a physician at the end of the day. So I think that would be a great look for you. If you can find things that you're passionate about and stick with them for long term. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that being said when it's time for applying to medical school. People don't like to see that you're jumping from this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, because it seems as though you're just trying to fill up your resume. People want to know that you have a passion, you have hobbies, you have things that you like, and you're not just letting medical school consume you. And I can say these things because I too was a victim of being consumed by medical school. I too was a victim of thinking that everything had to be derm related. But then I had to get out of that box and realize that there's more to life. I have to do things that I genuinely love, and that will translate the way that it needs to when it's time to match. Got it? Got it. All right. So I don't know if that really tells you how I made myself a good candidate, but I don't really want to get into the weeds of that one because we're going to save that for part 3. But while you are a first and second year, even third year, I think it's very important to do the things that you are passionate about. And I promise you that will translate over into your CV and your resume. Program directors will recognize that about you, and that alone will set you up for being a good candidate for dermatology. Okay? Now, third question. What are some things you wish you knew before entering medical school? I wish y'all would have told me that I was gonna be depressed. No. No, but seriously, I wish somebody would have told me. I think no one can really prepare you for medical school. But if I had to go back and think about some things that I wish I knew, I wish that I knew you really need to be mentally well to get through medical school. Medical school is tough. And it's one of those things that I thank God every single day that I went through, because it molded me into somebody that's just like, if I can do this, what else can I do? You know, it kind of just made you feel like I went through medical school. Child, I could do anything else. And I think it was just one of those things that made me recognize so many different flaws that I had about myself. I think it made me recognize the weaknesses that I had, my strengths as well. So I wish I would have known how much it would uncover about myself. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. One thing that I realized about myself in medical school was that I was actually insecure. And I think when people hear the word insecure, they think like, oh, you're not happy with yourself? You don't like yourself? You think you're not pretty? And it's not just that, guy. My level of insecurity, I think I got to medical school, imposter syndrome set in, and I doubted myself a lot. I started to feel like, am I supposed to be here? Is this a mistake? Am I really that smart? And I think where that stems from is that usually medical school students, we have always been probably the smartest in every class that we've been in. You know, all through elementary, middle school, high school, college. You know, you're making A's and B's. Barely seen a C. And if you saw a C, it's probably because you had an A in the class. You was like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to study for that exam. I can get a C on the exam and still get an A in the class. Stuff like that. And you get to medical school where it's the real deal. Stuff is hard. And you're being fed all this information all at once. And it's hard to retain, hard to understand. You get an exam grade back and it's not what you want. You've never made an exam grade like that before. And so now you start to think, well, I've been doing great all my life, but all of a sudden I'm here in medical school and that's not translating. I'm not making straight A's like how I used to. I'm not, you know, at the bare minimum, at least making A's and B's. I'm starting to see some C's here and there, and I don't like that. And that's scary to some people who aren't used to that. And I know it sounds so dumb, but it's true. And so then you start second guessing yourself and you don't really think that you belong in the environment that you're in. But let me tell you something. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And before we make this into a political thing, it's not about if he is a great president or not. That's not what this is about. It is just the simple fact, if we're being honest, he was never necessarily qualified to be the president. However, he is the president. So in my mind, I know this might sound super silly. If Donald Trump can be the president and run the country, I think it's reasonable to accept that I am actually smart and I can actually get through medical school, and I am actually well equipped to be a physician. I think that's a reasonable thought process. So whenever you're doubting yourself, just remember, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. If he can do it, I promise you, baby, you can do it. You can. So, moving along. Question number 4. Oh, this is a good one. Do you recommend relationships during medical school? Y'all try to get personal. Okay, so this is the thing. I feel like you can be in a relationship in medical school. However, you have to make sure, like if you're in a situation where you're the person that's in medical school and your partner is not in medical school, you guys have to sit down and have a conversation. Paula, please stop. Have a conversation about what you got, like your expectations from one another. Because in all honesty, I'm tongue-tied. In all honesty, I think the person that's going to go through the most in that relationship, if you have a person that's in medical school and the person that's not in medical school, the person that's not in medical school, we need to check on them. Call them and see if their mental is okay. Because they are with a person who can't tend to them as much as they probably would like. And I think that's the frustrating part about being in medical school with someone who is not in medicine. It's hard for them to It's hard for them to understand how much time and how much dedication this actually takes. Medical school is going to take up a lot of time. And I think if you are with someone who can understand that you may be slightly absent for a lot of things, then it can work. But if this is a person who requires a lot of your time, and there's nothing wrong with that because you're in a relationship, then I don't think that a relationship is the best thing for you in medical school. I was in a relationship in medical school, and if I could do it all over again, I would say I would not be in a relationship in medical school because I saw the frustration and the strain that they placed on that person. And it sucked because it's like, he's not even in medical school. So, why should he be suffering? So I think it's just more so about finding a person who is and I mean, because it's a different story when someone's like, yeah, I understand you're going to be studying 23 hours out of the 24 hours of the day that we have. And then when it actually happened, it's a different situation. So if you can avoid it, I think that would be the best option. But again, I'm probably just being biased. Now, if you're a person, you're in medicine, they're in medicine, it could definitely work out. However, now you have two incredibly busy people. So I don't know, unless you guys go to the same medical school. But it's hard. It's a very hard balance. And I'll never forget when I was a scribe and I got accepted into my master's program. One of the physicians, he asked me, he was like, are you in a relationship? And I said, yes. And he basically was like, listen, he was like, I'm not trying to be negative, but he was like, it might not last. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. We good. Embarrassing. Because it did. But he told me that it would be difficult. And I wish I would have listened. But at the same time, I'm glad I went through what I went through because I learned so much from that relationship. I just think during that time in medical school was genuinely a time God wanted me to find who I was and uncover all of the things that I needed to work on. And that relationship exposed that for me, and medical school exposed that for me. So it was a double whammy. But overall, I just think it really depends on your partner and if they can genuinely handle that. Okay, so Don't go around here saying I told you to break up with your partner because you about to go to medical school or you're in medical school. But to save everybody a headache, I think you should be single. Okay. Next question. What studying techniques did you use in medical school? So for me, I'll be honest, every block was a little different for me. I remember the first block, I did a lot of studying with my study partner, Michael Wallace, anesthesiologist at UAB. Great studying partner. I feel like we really understood each other. But when I came down, actually block 1 and 2, we studied a lot together. When it got to block 3, which was neuro, I did a lot of self-studying. I studied a lot by myself. I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and I think that's why I did really well during that block. But the reason why I ended up studying by myself is that you'll realize when you're in medical school, there's going to be certain things that you just can't do with other people because you really have to lock in. In neurology, that block was one of those blocks for me. Neurology, nephrology, those were, and cardiac, oh Lord Jesus. Those were some blocks where I just really kind of had to be by myself and do a lot of studying alone, whether that was going through YouTube videos, reading first aid for some things, not all things, using Anki, yeah, that was pretty much it. But using those resources, and one thing that I definitely did a lot of, and I might be crazy for doing this, I talked a lot to myself. I'm sure there are other medical students who did the same, but I had to say concepts out loud to myself as if I was teaching myself. And that helped so much. Sitting there and reading a lecture and then going to take an exam and realizing that you know nothing sucks. So the only way that I think that you will really know if you understood something is teaching it back to yourself, or if you want to teach it back to one of your classmates. Another thing that I did, honey, I talked to the pillow. Don't judge me because I matched into dermatology, so evidently it worked. You have to talk to something as if like you're teaching it to someone. I know the pillow can't talk back to you and tell you like, hey, I don't understand that. But if you can just teach it to that pillow and let it flow, then baby, you know it. You're gonna take that exam, you're gonna get an A. So that's something that worked for me. And I definitely took breaks. I think that's very important when you're studying. Take breaks. Read for 15 minutes, take a break for 10. Read for 15, take a break for 10. Because you'll start to realize that if you try to sit there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you're not going to retain anything. And it's going to suck when you're trying to review and you're like, what the heck did I just spend my time doing? So take breaks. And that was something I had to learn the hard way. I don't think I really grasped that concept until like second year. So just really try your best to take breaks for yourself. That was a study technique that I used and it worked for me. Do something, happy. Watch Netflix. Clean up your room. I know that might not be too enjoyable, but it's something. It's not studying medicine, I can tell you that much. So it's better than that. But so I definitely I would read through my lecture for 15 minutes, take a break. Read through the lecture, take a break. And then another thing I had to stop doing, which is what I highly recommend every student to stop doing, is do not go back and keep rereading lectures. Read through it one time and step away from it. Now that you've taken all those small little 10-minute breaks, I think it's time for you to take an hour break. Take a shower, give yourself a facial, watch Netflix, get you a snack, go get you some food, go for a walk. If you like to go to the gym, hit the gym and come back. and maybe move on to the next lecture or skim through the previous one that you just finished. But we have to stop reading these lectures 6, 7 times. I was a victim of that, and it was not helpful. I did not retain anything, and you would think I would because I was reading it so much. But honestly, it actually just hinders you more than it actually helps you. So those were the things that I did to really help me learn the material in medical school. And I'm sorry if some of the things that I said were not just like, this is the game plan, this is how you do it, or, you know, here's the outline. That I did in medical school was more so orchestrated around mental health, because I think that's the biggest challenge in medical school. If your mental health is not there, I don't care what you do, nothing is going to work for you because you're not okay. So once you figure out what allows you to be sane at the end of the day, stick with that and just go for it, and then do it every single time. And if it works, don't switch it up. Stick with it. The only time I would say switch things up is if you need a little bit more quiet time, try not to study with anybody. Try to go alone in your room, study there, to the library, wherever you go. Be alone for a bit and try to talk things out with yourself and go from there. But I think that might be it for my questions. Part 3 is going to be the one that you guys have all been waiting for, and that is going to be about how I matched into dermatology. It's literally the greatest field on earth. That's why I had to do that. But I think that that's more of a story time. This was more so answering questions, little tips, things that I wish I knew. But the next video is going to be a story time, and it's the one that I'm pretty sure you all want. It's coming, and that video will not take as long as this one takes. Sorry if this one wasn't everything that you wanted, but I hope that it helps somebody. That is my goal, to help somebody. Oh, I completely forgot. Another resource that I use in medical school, and I think this is the most crucial resource you can ever have. And I think it's a resource that you can use in anything that you pursue, whether it's medicine, becoming a lawyer, engineer, entrepreneurship. This resource was so great, and it kind of makes me sad that not enough people read it. It is the Bible. I know. You're probably like, oh, Shannon, get that out of here. Well, if you don't like it, you can move along, because we're going to talk about it. Getting a Bible, reading your word every day, and building a connection with God, I promise you, will take you so much further than any of the resources, any of the books, any of the tips that I have mentioned in this video. My relationship with God drastically changed. I would say I started to notice a change in my relationship with God when I was in the master's program. And every year it got a little deeper and deeper. But baby, it got deep in 4th year. And that's why I say that's the video. That's where things get really good. And that's why I think you guys should definitely come back and join me for part 3. Because I did not match into dermatology because of my board scores. I did not match into dermatology because of my research. I did not match into dermatology because I don't know, found the next best drug that you can have for atopic dermatitis. I matched into dermatology because I got into my word every day. I talked to God every day. I build a solid relationship with Him. And baby, when I tell you, my spirituality changed, who I was as a person overall drastically changed. And I cannot thank God enough for that. And it's been a wonderful journey. And I pray that it continues to get I don't know, even better. But that is the resource that you need in order to succeed in everything in life. I promise you, you will go places that you never imagined. You will be in rooms that you never thought you would be in. You will meet people that you never thought you would meet. And it's not because of you're so smart. It's not because, whatever the case may be. It's because you're blessed and highly favored by God, okay? God is going to get you places that nothing and no one else ever will. So please take that with you. I hope this video touches someone today. I hope it really helps. And we'll talk soon. So make sure you come back for part 3. And we'll get into the good stuff of how I actually matched into dermatology. Or I should say, what that journey was like for me. So I'll see you guys soon. Mwah.